Hello, hello. My name is Kim Addis. I'm the president and founder of Frame of Mind Coaching, and you have just joined the Frame of Mind Coaching podcast, where we invite leaders from all over the world to come onto the podcast and get coached live and in person. Today, my guest is Noel Saunders, and he comes to us straight from London, England. Noel, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, Noel, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you up to? What's going on? What's happening in your world?
You've actually caught me in the middle of a huge flux in my world right now. I've literally just come back from a business meeting in London that I've been offered a role at a new company like maybe 2 hours ago. So that's pretty awesome. It's been a crazy week.
Okay, so you've been offered a role, and that role means that it's local. You have to take it here.
It's lovely because it's digitally based, but it will be focusing in North America. So we will be moving to North America, I think, probably to the Los Angeles area, probably in January or February.
Okay, so what is happening? What is this role? Tell us a little bit about what you've been offered and whether or not you've agreed to take it, or if you're still kind of thinking about it.
We're negotiating about different parts of it right now.
Okay.
I've agreed in principle. It's to help a couple of boards that I help advise and this kind of thing, and it's just to help with a growth with one of them in a new region. So I don't want to share too many details until we've pinned everything down and I've signed dotted lines. Okay. But yeah, it's really all about growth and providing leadership and strategy in that area. So it's really exciting, and I'm just trying to process everything that we've had over the lunch meeting. But it's
okay. So
really
you have this meeting, and then you come into a conversation with Kim. Lucky you.
So it's been crazy.
What is going on for you in terms of like, what are you contemplating? What are the challenges going on in your world right now? I know that, you're about to move to another country. I don't know if you've ever lived in the United States, but it's probably radically different from England. So what's happening for you that you're kind of a little uneasy about, perhaps?
I've lived in the US before. I lived in New York and Los Angeles. We were there for nearly 20 years. However, the flip side that's going to make me a little nervous and a little hesitant is it's the first time we've moved to the US with a child in tow.
How old is your child?
She's all of 5.
Okay.
So it's a little disconcerting that we have concerns about our daughter going to school in the United States and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then also it's a case of, it's a massive upheaval. I've lived, like I say, I lived in Los Angeles for quite a while, but to flip and go back there back there after living back here in the UK for about the last 5 or 6 years, it's a huge step. And especially on the back of a pandemic that, everything's still quite onshore. And one thing, my wife and I are very much into positive projection. And so we both put out there that if we were to return to California and Los Angeles, it would be on our terms. And
what are your terms?
Our terms is to go back to both of us that we were going over there to jobs and to career. It would be a career move specifically. It would be for us to sort of, achieve the things that we want to get from our life, both professionally and personally. And so it's been a case of really sort of constantly keeping that in mind while we're putting it out there that this is what we want to do with ourselves and this is where we want to be, but also keeping it in mind that we have a miniature version of ourselves that's on our coattails, that everything we do is going to impact her.
Okay. And what is the concern primarily? Are you concerned that you won't have enough time? Are you concerned that her English will sound funny compared to other kids? Like, what's the
that has been a conversation. That's definitely been a conversation. We have friends of ours that have lived, either Americans that live here in the UK or vice versa, that have their kids over there. They all develop this weird hybrid accent that they sound like they're. So everybody says it's from the same place as Madonna and Naomi Campbell. It's somewhere in the Middle Atlantic. So we have concerns about that. We know for our daughter, for her blood family that's here in the UK, she will grow up very, very differently. And we know that there will probably be a bit of a disconnect between her and her cousins because it's just on a cultural level. She's going to be growing up in Los Angeles and in Hollywood and that kind of thing, and so it'll just be a little different for her.
And let me ask you a question. Have you made a decision to move permanently, or is it temporary?
We're selling our house, so I'm pretty sure this is going to be permanent, because we have discussed the issues with our daughter and this kind of thing with child psychiatrists and child development specialists, and they're like, you can do what you need to do until she's about 10 or 11, and then you can't mess around with her education and moving her around too much because it'll be too much of an impact on her. So we were like, we have to do it now. We have to be brave and move forwards. And then so it would be, moving to California would be for, if we didn't come back within the next 6 years, then it's going to be, we'll be there for the next 15 at least.
Okay.
So pretty permanent.
So let me ask you a question. I know that things probably just changed today before you came onto the call, because I think our conversation was going to be about what you do next and finding your passion, but you have a coach on the line. Is there something specific that you want to talk about? Is it the question of how do we raise our daughter in the US, given the fact that our family's in the UK? Like, how do we make the best of this? How do we turn this into a massive opportunity and keep her grounded? Like, what's the question on the table? Or is it, how do we, my wife's going off to an incredible adventure, and how do we stay grounded? Like, what's the question on the table?
So for me, I think it's how, two things. I think I'm on heading towards being on the wrong side of 50. And I still haven't been able to find my passion in life. I don't know what it is. I have things that I'm passionate about, but vocationally, I don't know what my passion is. I know things that I love doing and I like to do with my job. But I'm always envious of people that find they're like, my job is my passion and my passion is my job. And I've not really had that 100%. And then I think also for us, it's a case of how are we going to manage this massive change and upheaval? I think moving to the States, it's a choice that we've made as far as we have a very extensive network of friends that are over there. And, they're obviously a big part, an important part of our life. And one of the key parts of the decision for us was that we wanted to be able to provide our daughter a circle of role models that she would feel empowered by. And so with my wife and I's friends that are in California, we have directors, producers, actors, comedians, Oscar-winning sound techs, you name it. These women are very, very successful, powerful, well-placed people for her to be able to be around and look up to. And we thought that would be something fantastic that we can provide for her. And also for my, specifically for my wife's professional growth, it's the place that she needs to be as a creative performer, is where people encourage her to write and that kind of thing.
Okay, so there are two things on the table. One is, how do we go there and manage the change? And the other question is, what do you do with your life? Those are two very different questions. Let's do one at a time. How's that?
Sure, that works for me.
Okay, and we might need to have more conversations, but we'll start here. First of all, the language that you're using is fascinating, and the language you use is a massive change and upheaval. Sounds pretty stressful to me, right? And the truth is, and I'll ask you this question, how do you live your life now? Like, your daughter goes to some kind of school. What happens? She comes home, then what? Like, what's the routine that you have at home?
So we go pick her up from school. In the case of what's going on for my wife and I right now, it's going to be, well, she's in California. I'm going to be a single parent family here in London and looking after her. So, I'll pick her up from school. She comes home. We spend time together. She fills me on her day, explains what she's done. And of course, she's 5. So it's snacks. She's like Pac-Man. She just doesn't stop. And then we sit and, like I say, we have a catch up, but then also we give her some personal time, which was also for me as well, I think, is, she's rationed, like most kids are, to screen time. She's allowed like 1 hour with her iPad, or she can have the TV on, and we give her the choice of what she wants to do. Most of the time it's iPad. And then, I'll start cooking dinner. But then part of the routine that I do with her is while I cook dinner, then she shares that experience with me. Like I'll cut up the broccoli and she'll load the broccoli into the steamer, and I'll show her how to cook the fish and that kind of thing, and how boiling pasta works and that kind of stuff. And then obviously, she eats dinner, and then we'll have a whole hour or so where she can wind down before bedtime, and then it's bedtime.
So you sound like an amazing parent, by the way. So I love what you just described to me, but that doesn't have to change when you come to the States, right? You have a
No,
pattern, you have a routine. And as long as you have a pattern, a routine, there doesn't need to be a massive upheaval,
no,
right?
no,
So what you're
exactly.
doing is you're creating a very solid foundation for your family. And as
Mm,
long as that foundation is in place, and it sounds like it really is, I'm very impressed, by the way, then the location you're at doesn't have to rattle you. It doesn't have to create this feeling of massive upheaval or change. Okay, so to me, there's a few things: routine, foundation, and I love the word traditions. The more you
yeah,
install traditions, whether they are from your experiences in the UK, the things you're bringing along from your family, from your upbringing, but they are part of the way you operate, whether it's Friday night dinners or Sunday evening, whatever, some kind of ritual that you can implement that says we do these things no matter where we are, that creates safety, solidity, togetherness, right? And
oh yeah,
that's very, very important for you. So I'm not all that worried about it. I am concerned about, again, the feeling for you of massive change, massive upheaval. I, if we can think about it a little differently, if we can say, actually, we have a great starting point, we have a great foundation, and we're just taking ourselves somewhere else, right? Our environment changes, but we don't have to necessarily change. Then things get calmer, they get more relaxed, they get more stable. And so it's important for you not to bring your, let's call it anxiety or fears or worries to the table, and to say, you know what, I'm actually quite grounded. And so is our family, and the way we operate is very grounded. And we're bringing that grounding to a new place. And so that's thought number one. I'm curious, how are you reacting to that?
yeah. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, my wife and I are very big on tradition. Like every Friday night is pizza night, and that's one of the things with selecting a new property to purchase in California. Is my wife made a good point? Is that we're going to find a place that has a pizza oven built in the yard, because she wants to do pizza oven because LA has the weather, but you can do it almost year round. And so that every Friday night is when we do pizzas. We make pizzas, of pizzas are done, and we're developing our own traditions. We have been since our daughter was born. Of every birthday morning she has like lox and bagels, and that's the New York side of my wife and I coming in. And there's all certain things that we teach our daughter to be adventurous with food and cuisine, and
Amazing. Yeah.
we have a 5-year-old that eats hot sauce, so
Yeah.
we think we're doing okay on that one. But
I think you're
I
doing
absolutely agree.
fantastic. And I totally appreciate lox and bagels, not just on birthdays. But anyway, okay, so I think you have that covered. And I think the what you have to make sure of is you're looking at your own language and saying, what does the language do to the experience? Does it heighten the stress, or does it lower the stress? Does it cause calm and relaxation and a feeling of, I got this? Or does it feel like a little panicky? And to me, like, the language that you're using isn't consistent with the way you operate currently in your home. And so you want to just watch yourself, because there's a mismatch between the way you're thinking about this move and the way you actually operate. And you want to kind of align yourself on that front. You're already doing super well. Just know that you just need to bring that to the new location.
Thanks. Yeah,
So
I mean, I
that's
think I was going to say, I mean, we within our relationship, our family motto that we created for ourselves is "We'll figure it out."
right.
Um, we that's how we've always operated, and that's what we do with our relationship, and then the relationship with our daughter and our place in as a family. Is just like, we'll figure it out. Whatever's going to happen is coming away. We'll figure it out.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes, yeah, you have to be quite careful, I think, about language that you use, because sometimes I'll just use it without realizing that it can be quite, the perception can be wrong of it sometimes.
Right.
And I think there's a quote from Bruce Lee that's like, be careful when talking about yourself, because your body doesn't know the difference, or your spirit doesn't know the difference between harsh words and kind words, and that's why they call it spelling, because
Yeah.
it doesn't know
So
that. So
in
I
your
thought that
case,
works for us.
like a lot of people I talk to have kind of thinking that creates behaviors that lead to outcomes that they don't want. In your case, you have behaviors and thinking that do create outcomes you're looking for, but you have language that clashes with your essence. And that creates a disconnect for you. That creates uneasiness. And that's the issue that you need to address with respect to the move and the change and the new environment. But let's talk a little bit about this whole issue of your purpose and your passion. And so, one of the things that I like to do with clients like you is kind of do a little bit of a history check. And we would really have to talk for a lot longer to get into the details of what that looks like. But in the span of your life, you said I'm almost, on the other side of 50. If you look at the span of your life, you have had moments of complete and utter engagement. I'm betting that you have. The issue is that you haven't taken notice, or you haven't taken stock. You haven't captured that and said, when are the moments that I have been completely and utterly engaged? And what are those things? What do those things have in common? So if I look back at the string of my life, and I look at the events, the projects, the things that I've been involved with, where I've been feeling lit up, even temporarily, even for a day, even for a week. What were those things, and what did they have in common? And who was I in those moments? What skills did I bring to the table? Who was I involved with? What were the conversations we were having? And so for you, it's about really taking stock, looking back, and starting to track those commonalities, because in that information, in that data, provides you with answers you've never noticed before, you've never realized before. And that's where coaching comes into play. A really great coach asks the right questions to understand that history and find the patterns that surface and say, oh, well, here it is. It's very clear. Here's where you are when you're lit up. And it may be, and I don't know, that you're actually far more engaged and far more passionate than you think. And we don't know. And so for you, the exercises, I love to encourage people to journal, but the exercise is to go back and say, okay, what was I doing when I was 20? What was I involved with? What were the projects? Like, look back. Even in high school, what was I doing in high school that totally lit me up? And go through your years, go through your history, and do a little bit of remembering about your state at the time.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, I've not taken time to sort of take stock
You need
of
to
my
take stock.
past.
Yeah. And write it down like a timeline. I love this project, love this team, loved who I was talking to, loved what I was working on, loved my role here, but it was short and it ended. And so then the question becomes like, why are some things short and why do some things end? Why is there that change? What caused the change? Why wasn't there a longer term involvement or engagement? But what you're really doing right now is data collection to examine what's working, what has worked, and why did things come to a change? Why did they end? And we want to start to examine not only the moments that you're super engaged and excited, but what creates a turn for you where you stop being engaged and excited, because that's informative too. So we need that information. And so for you right now, the coaching advice is to really look back in your history and make notes and start to observe yourself from a third party perspective and say, if I were to look back at my life, if I were to look back at myself as though I was the adult and that person was the kid, right? What would I notice? What would I see? What would the patterns be? What would emerge? And what you'll see is absolutely some kind of information that says, this is what I loved, and this is where things went awry. And that information tells me what perhaps I should be doing next, or where I should be leaning towards, or what I should continue to be involved with.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I've never, like I said, I've never spent time to take a look at that and think, what really floated my boat at, this particular point in my career, or this particular point at university, or that kind of thing. I know the things that I like when I'm working and that I do enjoy. I mean, it's not good to say that I don't like anything about working, but there are some things I really do enjoy. And obviously find those. And even while you're talking about it, I'm thinking very quickly back over things. I'm like, well, I like that because, and there is a thread. There is a thread that goes through. So it's a case of just making sure that thread, I think, for me is, more made a bit thicker.
Exactly. Made a bit more obvious. You're shedding light on it. Amazing. Noel, you know what? I want to tell you this. Like, in the span of my career, I've noticed what has lit me up. One of the things that lights me up is being able to talk to people like you and just have these conversations. And I don't know if you sense that. Like, I just feel a feeling of enthusiasm and total engagement.
Yeah.
And I've made it a mission of mine to really, really focus on those things that I love and eliminate as much as possible the things that I just don't love. And it's the way that I operate, and I get people around me to support me in the things that are not my sweet spot, not the things that I absolutely love. But for those of you who are listening, I am sure that you have experienced some moments of transition where you feel like you're about to go into a massive upheaval. And I want you to think about how you go into those massive upheavals with a sense of grounding, with a sense of foundation, and being able to take some of your traditions, some of your habits, some of your the things that you do on a regular basis into your new world. So think about it like that. And the second thing is that if you're wondering, what is my passion? What am I supposed to be doing in this world? Look back at your history, look back at the moments where you were lit up, and start to take notice. Use your journal and start to analyze where you were lit up, what you were doing, who you were doing it with, what your role was, what you were talking about, and start to pay attention to those threads. The word thread is a great word. But thank you, Noel, for being my guest on today's podcast. For those of you who are listening, please like and share. We always like your feedback as well. Send me an email. Tell me what you think. Tell me what your passion is. My email is kim@frameofmindcoaching.com. And if you are interested in being a guest on the podcast and would like to share one of your challenges, reach out to me as well. Once again, my email address is kim@frameofmindcoaching.com. Noel, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been interesting.